What if one of history's greatest conquerors never died at just 32 years old? What if Alexander the Great, the man who created one of the largest empires the world had ever seen, had lived just 20 more years? Would the world map look completely different today? Would his empire have lasted for centuries, or would it have torn itself apart under his rule? In 323 BCE, Alexander the Great died in Babylon, likely from fever or poisoning. He had conquered lands from Greece to Egypt, Persia, and all the way to India, an empire stretching thousands of miles. But his sudden death left his vast empire leaderless, sparking chaos and civil wars among his generals, the so-called Diadochi. But imagine if he had lived. 20 more years of ambition, strategy, and conquest. 20 more years to reshape the world. At the time of his death, Alexander wasn't done. Historical records reveal his next targets: Arabia first, and eventually campaigns west toward Carthage and Rome. If alive, Alexander would have launched an invasion of Arabia around 322 BCE. With his unmatched military genius and the already shaken Persian trade routes under his control, Arabia might have fallen quickly. His empire would have gained control over the rich incense and spice trade, fueling even greater power. And once Arabia was secured, what next? Rome was just rising in Italy. Carthage was a growing naval power. Alexander may have set his eyes west, clashing with civilizations that would later dominate history. Alexander had already reached India, but his army refused to push further east. With 20 more years, he may have returned with renewed strength. Imagine Macedonian phalanxes marching deeper into the Indian subcontinent, forging alliances with local kingdoms, perhaps even clashing with the early foundations of what would become the Maurya Empire. Had Alexander succeeded, Greek influence might have fused even deeper with Indian culture, creating a Greco-Indian empire far stronger than the one history left behind. But conquering is one thing. Holding it all together is another. Alexander's empire stretched across dozens of cultures, religions, and languages. Historically, it fractured immediately after his death. With 20 more years, Alexander might have focused on governance. He had already begun blending cultures, encouraging intermarriage, adopting Persian customs, and spreading Greek learning. A longer reign could have created a stable fusion of East and West, a multicultural empire where Greek, Persian, and Egyptian traditions intertwined under one rule. Instead of the empire splitting, Alexander might have created a dynasty that rivaled Rome in longevity. Rome in the 3rd century BCE was still a regional power in Italy. But with Alexander alive, Rome would have faced an entirely different reality. Would Rome have ever become an empire at all? If Alexander marched west, the young Roman Republic may have been crushed before it ever rose. Or perhaps Rome would have resisted fiercely, giving the world a clash between the phalanx and the legion centuries earlier than history planned. If Rome fell, Western civilization as we know it might never have taken shape. Alexander's extended rule would also affect religion and culture. Greek thought, science, and philosophy were already spreading through his empire, an era known as Hellenism. With 2 more decades, this influence could have gone deeper into Arabia, India, and Africa. Buddhism, Christianity, and later Islam may have spread in completely different ways, shaped by a Greco-Macedonian superpower controlling trade and cultural exchange. If Alexander had lived 20 more years, the world map would likely be unrecognizable. A unified Greco-Persian-Egyptian superstate might have dominated for centuries, delaying or even preventing the rise of Rome. Western civilization might not have been Roman at all, but Alexandrian. Greek language and culture could have become the permanent foundation of the world, influencing everything from government to technology far more deeply than they already did. But that's the great mystery. Alexander's ambition had no limits. With 20 more years, he might have built a world empire, or burned it all down in his hunger for glory? So what do you think? If Alexander the Great had lived, would we live in a Greek-dominated world today? Or would history still have found a way to tear his empire apart? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more journeys into the alternate timelines of history.